Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Hello there, everybody. My name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast. This is the final episode that we will be airing in 2025, and it will mark the finale of Season 5. Tomorrow, my co-host Tyler Hickman will transition us into the new year and into Season 6 of the podcast, with a brief look back at the podcast's history as it celebrates its 5th year anniversary. Today, though, I wanted to be a little bit more self-reflective. I've been a part of this podcast since mid-2021 and fully took on the reins, so to speak, in mid-2024. Through that time, I've developed a very special passion and connection to this podcast. And at many points, I've even subconsciously thought of it as my podcast. Of course, it's not my podcast. It's a community podcast for a community newspaper dedicated to bringing news to our mountain communities. Still, I have loved bringing you guys these interviews and these stories for all of my time here, and I cannot wait to keep doing so in 2026. Yesterday, I turned 24 years old. Tomorrow, we celebrate a brand new year. And today, as I think back on everything I have done and will do, I'm bringing you a self-reflective interview in a lot of ways. Today, for a special Mountain Folk Tales segment, I'm bringing on childhood family friends of mine, Roger and Lori Drienka. They've known my parents since they'd moved here, and I have known them for my entire life. For whatever reason, I'm often more nervous interviewing family or friends or people that I'm close to. But I'm really glad that I got to bring Roger and Lori onto this podcast and share their contributions to the community. Their physical story in the newspaper was originally published for the August 28th, 2025 edition, and I conducted this interview all the way back on August 8th. So I am very excited to finally bring you my discussion with Roger and Lori Drienka. A quick note before we jump in. At one point in the interview, Roger mentions Richie Furry, an inductee of the Colorado Music Hall of Fame, and mentions before that he's trying to think of a band member from America. He corrected me after the interview was over, remembering that Richie is not a band member of America, but rather Buffalo Springfield.
So, do you guys just mind introducing yourselves real quick?
I am Roger Drienka.
And I'm Lori Drienka.
Fantastic. And yeah, we're covering you today for our column Mountain Folk Tales. So I want to just get the general sense first of how long you guys have lived in this area and how long you've been a part of this community.
Well, we have been a part of that community since 1977, but Lori's family's been a part of this community since the 30s.
My grandfather came up to Pinecliffe and built a teepee when my father was 3 years old. So that was 1936.
Whoa, that's awesome. And so this community, it sounds like, has a very long-lasting connection for both of you. And so have both of you been a part of Colorado your whole life, or did the love kind of develop elsewhere after a lot of time? Like, I don't know.
Lori and I actually met in Southern California in high school.
Gotcha. And I was born in Denver and lived in Denver until I was about 10 years old, and then went out to Southern California for a few years and bagged myself a man and brought him back. And like Roger said, we met in high school, and we came out in 77.
Gotcha. And so over that time, from 77 to here, how have you ended up kind of settling into the community. And I guess I'll start with how did it feel kind of settling in at the beginning, the transition from particularly California to moving here in 77?
Well, for me, it was overwhelming because it seemed like we were in the middle of nowhere. Because when we came, of course, we came in on I-70 through Central City, Highway 119, and then to Highway 72, and then stopped. Hadn't been down to Denver or anything yet. So I felt like I was in the middle of nowhere, and I thought, where am I going to find a job out here? And then within 2 days, I had a job working for a real estate guy doing remodeling work, and that's where I kind of started out.
So when we came out from California, we went directly to the house that my grandfather had built way back in the 30s. And he actually built the teepee that was on Highway 72 for many, many years for the family to live in. And then he built the house up above. And that house had left the family, and my grandfather had long passed. And my mother had a dream that the house was for sale. And they called a realtor, and because we were living in Southern California at the time and wanted to get out, and the house was for sale, so my parents bought it. So Roger and I came with them. And living up there was scary. There weren't very many people. And we had one car, Roger's truck, and I didn't know how I would get a job either. So we stayed up there for just a short while, and then we moved down to Golden for a couple of years while I went to court reporting college, and Roger worked.
Very cool. And also kind of tying into that, I guess, once you started working, kind of getting integrated into the community a lot more, how did your involvement with the community kind of expand from there?
Well, we lived on Hummingbird Lane. We moved back up to the canyon and lived on Hummingbird Lane, right over by the CCIA. And we just started getting involved. Really, we started a family right away. And we got involved, I think, through having children and also work. Wouldn't you say, Roger?
Yeah. The canyon was a bit different back then. It was very community oriented. I think it's kind of lost that charm over the 40 years that we were up there. It's a different canyon than it was when we started out, for sure. But we got involved with the elementary school and used to do a lot of things for the kids, do assemblies for like Earth Day and do concerts and chaperone the dances and stuff like that.
And we joined the CCCIA and were a big part of that. Did a lot of different things there.
Very cool. Also in regards to the community thing, because you just mentioned the concerts that you would sometimes hold at that school. I know you guys were also involved in the music scene during your time here in Colorado. So were those concerts that you guys played or hosted at that time? And how else did your music stuff develop over the years? All that kind of stuff.
Well, we started doing open stage up at the CCIA, and we held that monthly for many, many years. And it was a way for us to be able to perform because we did other things. We did other gigs, other places, but a lot of times it was like weddings or events, and it wasn't something that we could have our kids at. And so we wanted the kids to be able to see us perform and have more exposure to music and also other kids in the canyon. So we started open stage and did that for many, many years.
Yeah, one of the reasons we got involved in the open stage was, as I mentioned, we did things for the elementary school for different things, like when the kids would be studying ocean, we would we would come and do songs that we wrote about whales or whatever. And every time we would go back, the kids would remember what we had done before and would ask to hear certain songs again. And so that also kind of triggered us in the idea of doing a community open stage. So families, the little kids right up to grandma and grandpa could all come and enjoy some live music.
And those concerts at the elementary school started out with Earth Day concerts. And we would do it on Earth Day every year.
That's awesome. And so with the music stuff in general, I always ask this with all of the musicians that I interview for my music column primarily, like when did you guys kind of get interested in music and how did it develop into just performing in those open jams here in the community?
Well, I started out 10 years old or so, and did things like talent shows and stuff, and ended up getting hired by Milkman Studios to do showcase an instrument that was called the Transicord, which was like the first synthesizer, but it was an accordion. You didn't have to move the bellows. And we traveled around Southern California doing demos with that. We did songs like Light My Fire by the Doors and Hang 'em High by the MGs, and, all in an instrumental format. And it was pretty cool. We did some shows where we had a full orchestra behind us. So it was a pretty big deal for a few years doing that. And then I played in garage bands and that type of thing. And then when I got into high school and Lori and I met, of course, we just started jamming with ourselves. And then when we came to Colorado, we started jamming on mountainsides and stuff with the rest of the hippies, like up on Mount Thornton and stuff like that. And then we got in, after we were doing the school stuff, we finally started a 7-piece band and ended up meeting a guy that was involved with Michael Jackson, and I traded building his studio for him recording our first album.
And he moved from Southern California to Wonderview.
Yeah, so he had a house on the Switchbacks, and he even played a couple open stages with us. Over the years with Open Stage, we had people like, there was a guy from America that came to Open Stage and stuff. Mm-hmm. Richie Furay.
Oh, yeah.
Richie Furay played at the Open Stage, and a couple others. I can't remember all right now, but, that went on for like 10 years, so a lot of people played that.
That's amazing. And I'm remembering, too, that a lot of those guys also came to Colorado to record at Caribou Ranch at that time. Were you guys involved with any of that at all, or did you kind of see people?
No, we were just a little too late for the Caribou thing. That all kind of, it caught on fire like in the early 70s, I think, after Elton John recorded up there. So no, we missed out on that one. But yeah, people like Stephen Stills and Dan Fogelberg and a couple other ones lived up there in Pinecliffe, and they used to go play at the Pioneer
in Netherlands.
Yeah.
Very cool. And yeah, I like one of the big reasons I remember that big music connection is because I do have a copy of that first album. I don't know, I'm sure you guys must have given it to us at some point. But was that really the big kind of release that you guys had as a group? Did things end up developing from there, or did you primarily focus on music for fun in the community?
No, Roger is a songwriter, and that was really his passion. And we started when he met Chris Carell. He had been thinking about doing a CD. We had a little home studio, and then he built this amazing studio for Chris. And Chris was interested in Roger's music, so we brought everybody up and we recorded there. So no, it was more. Then it became big time. We were doing more stuff. We were starting to market the music. So it was. Yeah, it was fine doing the community stuff, but we needed a little bit more. We were just getting to a level that required a little bit more outreach and doing something more professional.
Gotcha. And kind of switching gears for a little bit, I may come back to other music questions in a bit, but switching gears just to the community in general. Lori, you have long-standing connections, but Roger, did you have any connections to Colorado before? Or was it really when Lori brought you out here that you first connected with this place?
When I came with Lori, I had no connection to Colorado before that.
And so with Lori's connection, it makes sense why she had such a connection to this place. But when she brought you out here, what connected to you when you first came here? What first drew you here?
Well, I really like the mountains, but Lori's what brought me there. I wouldn't have come to Colorado on my own. It never occurred to me to come to Colorado. But Lori came and said, my parents sold the house and we're moving. And I said, well, I'm coming. So that's how I ended up here.
And my brothers tell the story about how we were driving and they kept looking back going, is he still there? And I say, yep, he's still following us. Amazing.
And yeah, and so I've known you guys since I was a kid, of course. And you guys, by the time you had cemented the day job I've always known you for, Roger, by the time I was a kid, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that was really the big thing that's been going on for that type. Can you just tell me a little bit about how that kind of developed for both of you guys, how you ended up really settling into the full-time job aspect of it here for the community?
Well, we got lucky, just ran a little ad in the Mountain Messenger, and we got lucky and met a man named Clark Houston that owned a house, or not a house, but a really cute cabin in Pinecliffe Association, which was it started out as a tent community and then turned into little cabins with outhouses and only summertime water that ran in pipes on top of the ground. And, when I met him and started working on his cabin, then there was another association up there called Miramonte, which had, if I remember right, it had 12 summer cabins, they called them, on the property. And these were huge party houses. One of them that we did a lot of work on was 14-room cabin.
Rustic mansions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They were full of histories, antiques and stuff from the generations that they were passed on from. The guys that first started that Miramonte bought land from the railroad after they had blasted all the tunnels in through the Pinecliffe area and stuff heading up to the Moffat Tunnel. And like a circuit judge was in on that, and the Sicilian food or spice people.
Oh, Solitaire.
Or Solitaire, yeah. At that time. They bought in, and a couple other ones. So some big money people from Denver actually bought that land and built these spectacular summer houses up there. And Lori and I fell into working with those people, and they weren't our only clientele, of course, like your parents were, and a good handful of other people that we worked for through the years. And it was all word of mouth from there on out, and people just trusted Lori and I. They liked not having strangers in their homes. Lori and I did 99.9% of the work. We didn't bring strangers in, and it just really became a niche for us, and it worked out wonderfully.
And just to back up for a second, Jamie, we met in a construction class in high school. We were building a house on the school property in Garden Grove, California, where Roger's from. And I was the only girl in the class. I never thought about not doing construction because I loved it. So then we built our business, and our motto was, we treat your home as if it were our own.
Yeah.
And we meant it.
And we kind of started the business because we had to. I was a union carpenter, and I ended up getting blackballed because I had to do a deposition against a project manager for a company that I was working for because he had slandered a Mexican carpenter that was in the union. They brought charges up against him, blah, 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 real long story. But what I mean when I blackballed, when you're in a union and you would finish a job, you would go on a thing called the bench, and you'd sit on the bench till your name came back up as people got hired onto other jobs and stuff. And when my name would come along, they would hire me someplace, and then they would lay me off like in a couple of days, and I'd go back to the bottom of the list. So you spend half your life sitting on the bench, they call it. So Lori and I, after I sold picnic tables out of the back of the truck and stuff like that, we just kind of fell into working up there, and it snowballed and was a really great career working up there for the people of Coal Creek Canyon.
Absolutely. Oh man. And I'm kind of interested, Lori, in what you were talking about with that construction class and he being the only girl in the class. That sounds kind of that I hear parallels from my mom a lot in there in terms of her technical theater background and how she was like she taught all the other guys how to weld and all that stuff. And so was that kind of a similar experience for you in regards to, showing everybody else that in fact you were very capable of pulling all of this off?
Well, yeah, it kind of happened after I got past the point of having
prove yourself.
Not really so much having to prove myself, but having to get past the guys that wanted me to hold their nails and hand them to them, or wanted me to be like the girlfriend or something. So Roger was a foreman, and I had a guy that was asking me to hold his nails and hang out with him, and I didn't like it. So I went to the teacher and I told him, I'm not getting any experience here. I need a new foreman. And he put me on Roger's crew. And then Roger let me do work, and the rest is history.
I told her to go sheetrock that bay window, and she did.
That's amazing. And a lot of what I've heard over this whole interview, really, I mean, I've of course obviously known you two have been together for a long time, but I'm hearing through the construction efforts and the music efforts and coming here to the community and all that, you have really done everything together, especially in this community. What has that been like, kind of developing everything purposefully, especially with each other by your side?
It's been wonderful. I mean, we did so many things. We did community projects. We did the wood project. We did the deck. We put the deck on the hall many, many years ago. We just did all kinds of things. We did a kids' craft day. And I don't know, I just feel like we always had each other's backs in working in the construction business and the music. I was the manager for the band, and I published Roger's songs, and just, I don't know, I just feel like we always have each other's backs, and we still do. We still help each other out.
And Lori spearheaded a lot of things, like the deck on the CCIA hall. There wasn't not a deck there back in the beginning of our time in the canyon. Lori got that going. She got the thing called the wood project, was where we would cut dead wood off of people's property and sell the firewood, and the money would go to the community center.
Home for Ruth.
Lori did one called the Home for Ruth. There were these two, not indigent, but illiterate homeless ladies, basically, that had a little piece of land, and they lived in a little one-room box. Their property had junk all around it, an old bus, and anything they could make a fence out of. There were skulls hanging on it. People were afraid of them, and they used to sell junk on the side of the highway, and we used to stop and buy junk and go home and throw it away because they didn't want a handout, but they'd sell you some good junk. So I came home one day and told Lori there were these two women on the side of the road, and one of them smoking a cigar, and she's got an airy face. And she ended up, once we finally got to know him, she passed away, and she had the Purple Heart or whatever.
She did have a Purple Heart.
She had a Purple Heart from the war. She was a nurse in the war. And anyway, long story short, these two women lived with almost nothing. We used to throw firewood over their fence to them and stuff before we actually met them. But Lori and her friend Kay Hyde went to give them a basket at Christmas time, which they would do for people that didn't have much. And they took it, and Lori...
Ruth said, my sister is dying, and I said, you can call me if you need help. And I gave her my business card, and of course she called me a few weeks later.
Yeah, so anyway, Lori ended up getting a little house built for them with a well, or for the surviving
for Ruth
gal, on their property. She got, like James Drilling came in and drilled the well, and, just about everybody donated time or money to the cause, and it was pretty cool.
We were on the front page of the Rocky Mountain News, and they did a expose or a spotlight on Channel 4 News.
So that's just a couple of things that Lori spearheaded up there.
But you helped.
And there were many other littler things that
we won't mention.
Yeah, that we won't mention. But we were very involved with the community and really enjoyed raising our family in Coal Creek. And I want to mention to you too, Jamie, we became friends with your mom and dad because we were kind of the same as that we did everything together, like your mom and dad did. And your mom was in the theater and, building props and all that stuff. So we had quite a bit in common with your mom and dad.
Amazing. And, I think, coming back to the community stuff with Lori in particular, you had the connection here beforehand and then brought Roger back from California. But would you have always come back to Colorado if that wasn't like the next step in coming back, the motivation for coming back?
I don't know. I really couldn't say. I love the beach. I love the ocean. Roger loved the mountains, and we always looked at the mountains. We always went to the mountains in California, but probably so because my family was here and I was extremely close to my mother. And I wouldn't have been away from my mother as long as she was alive. And this was her home too. She was from Denver.
And in general, with both of you guys having developed your lives in the community and developed a connection with a lot of people here, what in your time here, what have you guys taken away a lot of from the people in the community as a whole? What's just stuck out to you about it all?
Well, for me, what stuck out is the people that we got to know and kind of grew up with. They were just all really good people. There was a good connection in the time that we were up there. People would help each other out. People appreciated being there and having their homes there. And I don't know what else.
I think that living in a place like that with such beauty does something for people. So I think that a lot of times Roger and I, just the people that we gravitated to and that people that became our friends and our clients were people who they were couples. They were like us, but they'd been together for a long, long time. They'd met in high school and they stayed together. They made commitments. They grew families. We went to a wedding one time for some friends of ours that they'd been living together for about 25 years and they finally got married for their silver anniversary. And I had a little sewing business out of the house as well when the kids were growing up so I could spend more time and make money while I was home with them. And I made a silver wedding gown for her. And I remember Roger and they played this game where you were up dancing to the music and they would say, sit down if you've been married this long and, whoever, you get to keep dancing if you've been married at least this many years. And Roger and I were up there dancing and Ralph and Bodil Canoa were dancing and they were quite a bit older than us, maybe 20 or 25 years older. And then Roger and I realized that we were getting on in years.
Yeah. So we were second to them.
But your parents weren't there.
Yeah, they would have been right there dancing with us. So funny.
Oh,
I forgot about
amazing.
that. Yeah, and like Ralph and Bodil were like the ramrods before Lori and I came along. We kind of took the ball from that generation because they were in their 70s and stuff and 80s when we met them. And we kind of took their place because they were getting too old to do all the stuff that needed to be done up there. Like, for instance, one time we did a thing at the hall where we built a birdhouse for...
Oh, it was craft day.
It was craft day. And Ralph and I volunteered to cut the parts for the houses. And I don't think we ever worked so hard in our lives trying to keep up with, cutting 12 parts for each birdhouse for all the kids that came to this thing.
We did it during spring break. It was another one of mine and my friend Kay's schemes. We were like Ethel and Lucy. We came up with these crazy ideas and got ourselves into some deep stuff. But one of the things I think that is the most beautiful thing that we experienced about living up in Cold Creek Canyon is that we had a chosen family, and we had so many other friends that have chosen family, just like you guys, Jamie, your family. You're part of our chosen family. And, we always want to remember you. We love getting your Christmas letters, and we love seeing you on occasion at whatever we can dream up to do. Now that we're living down here, it's a little more difficult, but a chosen family is a wonderful thing. And then there's relatives.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, in general, is there just anything else in general about the community or your time here or anything, any other experiences? I don't know. Is there just anything we haven't talked about that you would want to add?
Well, we had a lot of good times. We were snowed in quite a few times. We experienced 6-foot snowstorms. We experienced floods. It was just a menagerie of stuff that I don't think a lot of people ever experience in their lifetimes. All happened up there in that little canyon.
I hope Roger gets back into songwriting because he could write a song about that. He did write a song about Hummingbird Lane because that's where we started our family, where Sarah was born. And Carly, actually. But it was a privilege to live up there.
Absolutely. And actually, just a small tangent, because they're opening the renovated deck at the CCCIA. How surreal has that been for you guys?
Oh my goodness, I saw it. I walked out on it. I have a picture of myself and my granddaughter on it. And Susie Schemmel told me that it cost $55,000. And when we did the deck project, I don't think it cost the CCIA $1,000 because we got the wood donated by Hugh M. Woods, and we got United Power came in and put in the poles and things like that. But Roger and I laughed because that's what we paid for our house up on Divine View. So it was pretty cool to see it. I mean, I think it's well worth the money. It's a beautiful deck. Oh yeah, I put those double doors in too. That leads out to that deck. Forgot about that.
That's super cool. Yeah, I'm just generally trying to think. I think those are the big things that I have usually that I usually kind of want to cover on my end, and especially wanted to cover with you guys.
Oh, there's one funny little thing that Roger said one time about the CCIA. So he said, we do funerals there, we do baptismals there, we do birthday parties. And we did everything there.
Yeah, a lot of fundraisers.
Oh, for sure.
And that was, the fundraisers are always built around music, so the music was a big part of Coal Creek for a lot of years too. Every time we raised money for somebody, of course, we'd play and get some other people to come and play and do a little concert to raise money.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little funny story about raising money for a child who needed some particular supplements that we believed could help him, and they did. He had Marfan syndrome, and he was facing a possible heart valve replacement surgery at the age of 7. And so I had said, well, there's going to be somebody really famous at this concert we're doing, this fundraiser. And then time got away from me. I couldn't get anybody. I just didn't really pursue it. So I told Roger he had to help me out. So Roger and Steve Frank they showed up as Simon and Garfunkel, and I did a overnight perm in Roger's hair, and he shaved his mustache off, and he looked like Art Garfunkel. And Steve Frank definitely looked like Paul Simon, and they sang like him too. So everybody just had a big kick out of that, and we did raise enough money to get the supplements for this child, and he did get better. But I thought
that's amazing. Oh, that's so lovely. That's amazing.
And we called that Canyonade. And we didn't do a lot of those, but we did, I don't know, maybe half a dozen.
Because, I know Canyon Cares just did their first, big Americana jazz fundraiser a couple weeks ago. So they're still hosting things like that, which is fun.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
Well, that's what community's all about. Everybody working together.
Absolutely. And I don't know. I think those are the big things I have.
Great. Say hi to your parents.
Always glad to do our part, Jamie.
Thank you so much to Roger and Lori for coming on board and joining us for this final episode of the Mountaineer Podcast's 5th season. I'm really glad that I got to share both your stories and a little bit of mine as well. And even though I definitely didn't get this episode out in a timely fashion, I think that timing worked out pretty well. Thank you all so much for tuning in and listening to the Mountaineer Podcast throughout 2025. I am really excited to finally bring you a consistent schedule for the Mountaineer Podcast in 2026 with the help of Tyler Hickman, Marianne Rosen, and hopefully many more voices to come. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, and you want to support local news from peak to peak, then be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Podchaser, the works. Be sure to keep an ear out for the next episode. And if you want to support local news from peak to peak before the year is over, then head to the mtnear.com and click on the subscribe button in the top right corner of our homepage to subscribe to our digital and or physical editions of the newspaper. If you have any questions for anybody involving the newspaper or the podcast, you can reach out to our editor-in-chief, Barbara Hart, at info@themountaineer.com, myself at media@themountaineer.com, Tyler at tyler@themountaineer.com, and our general inquiries email, frontdesk@themountaineer.com. If you head to the Mountaineer Media section of our homepage, you'll be able to find an embedded archive of our podcast episodes, our Facebook page, and our YouTube page. And you can follow us on Instagram at mtn.ear. We'll see you in 2026. Have a great rest of your year. The song that you are currently listening to is called Dreams. It's written and performed by Roger and Lori Drienka on their duo album of the same name. You can find their projects as the duo Drienka, Dreams, and Journey wherever you get your music.
Sometimes dreams can make you see things you never thought could be. It can make no sense at all. When you open up your heart, this is where the dream can start. Could be most anything. Dreams never let you down. Like a friend, they'll be around. Better get you when you fall. Make you big when you feel small. They can be your own best friend. Stay beside you till the end. Come out to play when you call. Not like anyone
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak-to-Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.